This is 24 in 42. Hi, welcome to 24 in 42, where we learn about an author's life, universe, and everything through 24 questions in 42 minutes. I'm your host, Jason Waltz, and today we're talking with Lyndon Perry, author of a lot of genres. Lynn, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Lyndon Perry, author of genres. That's true. I go by Lynn Perry when I'm writing my cozy mysteries. Lyndon Perry for fantasy and science fiction. Garth Perry for some crime and thriller. And I even wrote a romance under a pseudonym. So I've been writing maybe for 15 years seriously, trying to get better at this hobby. One day I'll think about making money with it, but started writing, of course, really early, like a lot of writers, just fiddling around. And then maybe 10, 15 years ago, started publishing stories, writing my own, and then recently decided to do a little bit more.
Very good. I have had the pleasure not to publish Lynn, but be published by Lynn.
There you go.
Not only did he get me to write my first Weird Western, he published it, but more importantly, to anyone who knows me, without this and without Lynn, there would be no Neither Beg Nor Yield. So this is a very important book.
Oh, thank you. I'm honored.
A little tidbit for anyone who's been viewing for a while. You may have noticed that the background behind me is finally facing you right. That only took me 3 episodes to figure that one out. Learning something new every time. All right, Lynn, I sent you 16 of the 24 questions in advance, but I'm going to surprise you with 8 others that you don't know what's coming. We are going to start a little timer here. And, all right, ready?
Sure.
Number 1, what color do you write in?
Oh, what color do I write in? Well, I'm wearing blue. Blue is my favorite color. And I'm normally a little melancholic, so I think that fits. I'm not as sanguine as I think I appear online, so I like blue.
Interesting answer. I like this question. All right. How do you give depth to a character, and do you treat a primary and a tertiary differently?
That's a good question. I wrote the answer down here, so I'm going to read a little bit about that. For me, to give depth to a character, I basically give them a little bit different personality. Each of my characters have a different personality, and maybe a quirk or a mannerism or a particular catchphrase that a character uses. I'm not super big on emphasizing a person's hair color or eye color, although I mentioned that. I sort of like to leave those details up to the reader to decide what a person looks like in their mind. For me, the key difference between a primary and secondary or tertiary character is their background, how much weight I give it in a story, their motivation, some of their inner musings. So the more important the character, in my opinion, the more screen time they get, the more dimensions they have, and more opportunity for that character to undergo some meaningful change during the story.
All right, very good. Did you grow up a city or a country kid? And wherever it was, did you play out your adventures with friends or alone?
I was a small town kid in a small town in the country. So I had lots of friends within the first few blocks of our house. We'd ride bikes, play together, make up adventures. But back in the 70s, you probably, and maybe guys do this anyway, you'd be together, but you'd also be in your own world, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I had lots of friends in the country. We'd go out, do our own thing, explore on their parents' farms and fields. We'd create our own kingdoms.
Yep.
And when I was on my own, my mom, must have been a typical boy, because I just remember her always saying, go outside and play, go outside and play. So I played a lot outside, but I also read. I read a lot. I was the youngest of 7 kids.
Wow.
And my brother, who's closest to me in age, was off to college when I was in fourth grade. So I was really like an only child, yeah. From like late grade school to junior high. So yeah, read a lot of Lord of the Rings during that time, Dragon Riders of Pern,
Sure.
Day of the Triffids, Star Wars, 1977, 78. I read Jaws, much to my mom's chagrin.
Did you play those stories then outside?
Oh, for sure,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yep, absolutely. All right. What is your timeline like from initial idea, any research, first draft, and when you finally say this is good?
Wow. Yeah, I don't have a timeline. I'm a discovery writer. People call it a pantser. Maybe I like discovery. Sounds a little more, like you're really doing something. Yeah. And so there's very little research going on as I write. I just make stuff up. I eventually check details, and come up with an outline as I go, because I feel I need the outline eventually to get me further.
Sure.
But how, for me, the process starts with a title.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and this sort of goes to another question you asked earlier on the sheet you sent me.
Yep.
I usually start with the title. I mean, and it captures a general idea of the story. It inspires the rest of the plot and the theme. For example, I'm working on a cozy mystery right now called Ma Tut's Kitchen Disaster. And I needed a title because I wanted to have something in my last book number 4, that readers, if they so happen to want to get the next one, would pre-order it.
Right.
So I came up with, Ma Tut's Kitchen Disaster. I had no idea what the disaster would be. I still don't. I'm 3 chapters in. I'm just starting, and but it pushes me forward.
Right. Interesting. Let's tie those together then. I'm fine with that. Do you find creating a title challenging?
No, I like titles. I have a bunch of titles in my notes, on my computer, just as either story starts or writing prompts. So titles are pretty easy for me. I don't know if I'm very good at them, but they're pretty easy.
All right. I'm just trying to make sure I make a note here. We got this one.
Oh, and with regard to that, though, there's you asked in that question as well about the drafting process. I am usually just a one draft person because I edit as I go. I sort of cycle back. I will write, and then I'll read what I've read and then move it forward. Then I'll read that and I'll move it forward. And so I can usually, back to your timeline question, I can usually get a short cozy mystery in about 25 writing days. And that's really, it's not that big of a deal. It's less than 2,000 words because my mysteries are short, about 45,000 word short novels. And I've written now, this will be number 5 in this series. I've written 2 others, so this is number 7 overall. So about 20, 25 days of writing, I can get a short novel done.
Okay. And you don't find that editing, going back and doing that, slows you down? Because that was an impediment to me.
Yeah. No, it doesn't slow me down. It's sort of, again, I cycle and I move forward. It helps me move forward. Now, once I'm all done, I will go through it and correct mistakes. And if that's what you want to call a second draft, that's fine. But I don't fret over like, oh, should I move this around and I just write it. And I figure if I get it wrong, I'll improve with my writing on the next book.
Okay. All right. That's fascinating. So when you are writing, what assails your ears?
I need it quiet. I can't have music when I play. It's too distracting. So I have the air conditioning going, and even that for a while was distracting, but now it's sort of just become background noise. But yeah, I need it quiet when I write.
Okay. All right. If you could follow the yellow brick road, would you?
Sure. Absolutely. See where it goes. I'm up for adventures. I don't know I think I told you in the past, my wife and I have sort of taken a couple-year adventure here to Puerto Rico. We're living in the U.S. territory. Part of it's adventure but it's part of it's safe because it's part of the U.S. U.S. money, no visa or passport. They have Walmarts here, but it's also an adventure because it's just different. It's different living in the Caribbean, and so yeah, I would definitely walk the Yellow Brick Road.
Cool. Which of your characters would you like to have as a best or close friend?
Yeah. I'm writing some cozies right now, so I'll show you the picture of my last one. This is the cover of Ma Tut's Hawaiian Delight. It's a cruise ship mystery. And in this series is an elderly priest named Father Aguilera. And he's gentle, he's kind, he's wise, he likes to read the gossip tabloids. He's kind of a person I think I would aspire to be, and I would like to meet him for coffee every day and just enjoy a friendship with this 80-year-old priest.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
Do you read nonfiction? And if you do, what do you enjoy?
I do read nonfiction, not as much as I used to. I had a business at one point, and so I was really into leadership principles and self-improvement, self-help, personal growth, that kind of stuff. My business failed, so I didn't think it made much of a difference. so I got rid of all my self-help books. I do like to read theology, good theology. On occasion, I'll stick with the solid stuff like John Stott, F.F. Bruce, Gordon Fee. Not into anything modern, anything good that and solid theologically speaking has been stated in the first 500 years of the church, and everything else is everything that's good it comes out of that. Even Martin Luther, John Calvin. So the good solid theologians I'll read, but I mainly read fiction.
Okay. All right. Can you tell me that third name? You said Stott, Bruce, and
Gordon Fee.
F-E-E?
Gordon F-E-E. Yes.
Okay. I know the other two. I hadn't. I'll have to look up Gordon. Okay.
So, just personally speaking, look up Fee and Stewart's How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth. It's a great primer on understanding the different genres of the Bible and understanding the different sections of the Bible in context.
Okay.
So it's called by Gordon Fee and somebody Stewart, How to Read the Bible for All It's Worth.
All righty, will do. Waffles, French toast, pancakes, crepes, or bagels?
Ooh, yes, I think. I like waffles. My mom had a special vanilla sauce recipe that she made for waffles. So if I have waffles, it cannot be with syrup. It has to be with my mom's vanilla sauce. It's a hot vanilla sauce, so it's like this creamy. It's really good. My go-to at a restaurant would be French toast, though, because I love powdered sugar.
Yep. So. Can you put that vanilla sauce on any of those other things?
You can, but I think, boy, that might be heresy in my family. So I think it's just waffles.
All right. Would you live in any of your worlds? Which and why?
I live in my worlds. Yeah, the cozies that I'm writing, it's easy writing. Like I said, I don't have to do a lot of research. The conversation flows. It's based in a place called Sugar Pine Station. There is a real sugar pine in Northern California where I went to summer camp and winter camp growing up. And it was a blast. It's in the sequoias and big sugar pine trees, or what they're called. That's why it's called sugar pine, near Yosemite. And so, yeah, small mountain community. I'm living on the beach. I like it, but I'm not really a sandy person. I would rather be in the mountains.
Distinctly different, yes.
Exactly. So my wife's the beachy person, and I love it. We can see the ocean from my window here. We walk out our condominium apartment gates, and just walk on the beach. It's great. But if I could have a dog with me in the mountains and go hiking every day, that'd be heaven. So I'd live in Sugar Pine Station.
That'd be a beautiful thing. All right. I love that it's rooted in not only reality a little bit, but memories. Memories are important.
Oh, for sure.
Who do you think writes the characters you most enjoy reading?
I like Longmire novels.
Oh.
Craig Johnson is what a storyteller. Wow. And his characters are so well drawn in the books. Now, it helped that the actors on the television series of Longmire did like a great job interpreting those characters. They were perfect in my opinion. But yeah, Craig Johnson is just a plain talented writer, and I would like to know more about those characters. He writes the way I want to describe people.
Cool. Okay. I'm learning so many. I mean, a lot of these authors I know, but just talking to you guys in these interviews, I like the way you call out people.
I can't wait to watch this series. I heard you had Adrian Cole on earlier. It's going to be great.
And he's got some cool news to share. All right. Spur of the moment, what's the funniest thing you can tell us right now?
The funniest thing. Oh my goodness, right now.
Even a joke.
Even a joke. Well, so when I came to Puerto Rico, there are these tire shops, and the tire places here are called Gomara, but it looks like a surname. And each of the Gomaras has another name to it, like Gomara Yahweh or Gomara Playa or something. And I got to thinking, I go, wow, the Gomara brothers really have a lot of tire stores here. And I realized, wait, I think Gomara means tire.
I have a similar story with one of the names of the roads here in San Antonio. It took me about 4 years to realize it was not what I thought it was.
Oh my goodness.
What is the best thing you have ever spent money on to further your writing?
I don't use it as often as I need to, but I'm using it now with my new story in the Ma Tut Mysteries. And that is the Scrivener app or word processing tool on the computer. I think that's right. It's pronounced Scrivener. Scrivener.
Yes.
Yeah. And it was a steep learning curve for me. I mean, I am not using probably 20% of its potential, but the fact that I can organize all my notes and I can put all my books and all the characters in one place, so that I don't have. What I do is I actually finalize my books in Word. In Microsoft Word, because I know it's so clunky, but I'm used to it. I like formatting and editing the final product in Word, making an ebook out of it and my paperbacks. I still haven't learned how to convert from Scrivener into a document yet, but I hate opening all the Word documents to try to get to my, what did I say in book 3 about this character?
Okay.
With Scrivener, I have it right there. And it's all, I don't have to keep opening and closing windows. So I really like Scrivener, and I don't know how much it was, $150 maybe, I don't know. I think it's worth it.
I have heard all positive things of it, but other than the free trial they did, a decade, 12 years ago when they first came out, I haven't played in it. So, but that's good to hear. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it makes writing more difficult or somewhat easier if you as a writer feel emotions strongly?
Yeah. I think writers really need to feel and channel their emotions onto the page. I am often, crying, or maybe laughing at my jokes, because I laugh out loud at my jokes when I'm writing them. I get the warm fuzzies. And each scene or chapter, I want to elicit some feel-good emotion, especially the ending. I really work hard on the ending so that it feels like, that's a nice wrap up. So if I'm not feeling those emotions,
Okay.
then I don't. I mean, how is the audience going to feel them? That's my take.
Can you perceive getting overwhelmed yourself, though? Too much hurt, possibly?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility. I think even fiction is an expression of yourself. So it's an autobiographical expression of some sort. Um, so I haven't gotten to the point where I really overdone it or over emoted. Maybe a couple of short stories, I think. Maybe. Um, but I think it made the story really good in my opinion.
Okay. All right. Let's see here. We are just broke 19 minutes, so we're doing really well.
Okay.
Here's one where I'm expecting a little bit of time. What were
All
your
right.
3 favorite books as a child? And by child, I mean pre-18.
That's good. So as a child, pre-18, I could have listed a lot more. I was thinking as a child, like younger than 12. I remember Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim. Do you know that one?
I know the Rats of Nim.
So the first book, the whole title is Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim,
Okay.
and it's great. It's something sort of like it, the Phantom Toll Booth.
Yeah.
If you remember that one.
I do.
These are just wildly imaginative children's stories, and gave me just a love for reading. A little bit older, I was probably too young to read it, but it really made an impact. Was Flowers for Algernon.
Ooh, yeah.
And my sister-in-law, who passed away a couple of years ago, she and her husband, my brother, were always giving me books to read. They gave me Day of the Triffids to read, Flowers for Algernon, these two I mentioned earlier. So I got my love of reading, and I credit my sister-in-law, Linda, for that.
Very cool. You made the comment that at first, though, on Flowers, you hadn't read it, you just heard about it. So what do you mean?
Flowers for Algernon?
Yeah.
I think I saw the movie first. Was it called Charlie? Do you
Yes.
remember that?
Yes. Yes. Yep.
And
Okay.
so I was probably too young to read it with a lot of understanding. But once I saw the movie, I read the book, and it was I thought it was great.
Okay. All right. I'm including these on the final version of this. It'll have the images of these books. So.
Oh, good. Yeah. Try to get the old cover for Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats of Nim and Phantom Toll Booth.
All right. I will look for them. What worries you most? Lava, quicksand, spider webs, or sharks?
Wow. I mean, quicksand. Growing up in the 60s and 70s, quicksand, obviously. But then it disappeared. What happened?
Right.
You know? Maybe before that, because I caught the reruns of Lassie, I think Wells,
Ooh.
Lassie, what are you saying, Lassie? He's stuck in a well? Oh, so
I like it.
falling down a well, I think, was my fear as a kid, and quicksand too.
Yeah, quicksand's not around anywhere as much as we thought it would be, huh?
No, I'm disappointed.
All right, you sort of alluded to this a little bit earlier, but when you're all done writing for the day, are you exhausted and just need a hot bath and a nice drink, or are you pumped up and ready to rumble?
Oh, what did I allude to? I'm more of a, time for some happy hour,
Yeah,
glass of wine with my wife.
that's the impression I got. Yep.
Yeah. I'm a closet introvert. I'm very extroverted when it comes to people at church and friends. But boy, when I'm at the end of the day, we have a rooftop, like a penthouse style here condo, and we're up on top watching the ocean, drinking just a glass of wine and maybe with a couple of friends over, but most of the time just my wife and I, and just relaxing, enjoying the breeze. So yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. What is the most difficult thing you have ever written?
Well, it's going to answer your last question as well. It's what I'm currently writing or trying to figure out. I'm writing a science fiction novel. I've written a couple of science fiction stories, more like space opera, not too hard sci-fi, or SF rather. But right now I'm working on this novel that, if it's accepted, needs to be 90 to 100,000 words, and I've never written anything over 50,000 words.
Okay.
My cozies are short cozies. My novellas are novellas, and short stories. So it's a challenge because I don't want to pad a novel needlessly. I want everything to count, because when I am reading these 300 plus page novels, I'm sorry to say it, but I'm skimming a lot. Even some of my quote favorite writers, because there's just padding. Yep. And most of these stories can be told in a lot less space, in my opinion. But that's me.
No, I agree.
But so this particular novel that I'm working on, I think needs that extra space. I just don't know what to do with it plot-wise. So why it's difficult is I do need to plot. I can't just discover as I write. I've got to figure out all the different parts, the characters, how much weight I need to give them, and how they all fit into the bigger story arc. Because if this novel is accepted, I sent it off to a potential publisher. They want a trilogy. And then not only a trilogy, they want books that go beyond a trilogy to make it a series. Huh. So I got to think long term, not just my one and done story.
Right.
So that's a challenge for me.
Why did you choose sci-fi, SF?
Well, I've always liked it. I read a lot of sci-fi growing up in high school as well, fantasy, but sci-fi as well. Larry Niven's, all his, Ringworld and his attendant novels. I think just as a challenge, right. Because I'm looking for challenges.
That's a big one on writing scale and writing. Intensity, like you said, you might actually have a little bit of an outline going, huh?
Yeah, I do. For this one, I have to.
All right. If you could write anyone else's character from any medium, who and why?
All right, I am just going to bail on this question. I have too many ideas of my own, and I really don't have time to think about getting involved in others' characters.
Okay.
That being said, back when Wool, the Silo stories first started, Hugh Howey, he opened up his sandbox to a lot of different writers. And, I have a fan fiction Wool story, Silo story that's still for sale. One of the other fan fiction writers, he wrote a story, different, but science fiction. And I sort of jumped into his universe and I wrote a short story in his universe. So, I would go back to Wool and write in the Silo world if I had time.
Okay. I was wondering how you'd answer this because I knew you had a couple of those shared world stories. So interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. That is a very. Go ahead.
Well, similarly, Joe Conrath did the same thing when Kindle Worlds, and so under my Garth Perry pen name, I wrote a couple of stories with him, and the one I was going to submit a novel to him, but then the Amazon changed all of that, and so I never got around to it. But I actually did finish this crime novel, and it used a lot of Joe Conrath's characters. Okay. But since I didn't have permission to use those characters, I filed off all the serial numbers and changed the names, changed the situation, changed the city, and with my own characters, added a whole different storyline. And I just finished that novel, and I'm going to wait till I get 2 more done, and then I'll release them in the new year.
Okay.
But if you want to really look closely, they are actually Joe Conrath stories.
It's been a while since I read him. I actually got to meet him at a writers' conference way back. I think he was on his 3rd book. So.
Oh wow, that's
interesting
great.
fellow.
Yeah.
All right, this one is first thoughts. I'm going to throw out 10 single words to you, and I want your first reaction, first response.
10 single words, and you want a first response. Okay.
Yep. So whatever you think of when I say a certain word. Ready?
Yeah.
Western.
I think of, Clint Eastwood. I'm watching Fistful of Dollars.
Serpent.
Uh-oh. We just had a glitch. Say it again.
Serpent.
Serpent, yeah. Gilead, the artist's serpent image that I used recently in one of my stories.
Nice. Box.
Box. C.J. Box, a Western writer.
Oh, okay. Orange.
Orange. When I was growing up, I had this silly joke called "Quit," and the line was "Quit oranging around," and so it makes no sense other than to my family. But orange reminds me of "Quit oranging around."
All right. Hawk.
Hawk. That sounds like a fantasy name. I'm thinking that what's that? That image of a guy who's got a hawk on the book cover, and I'm not sure what fantasy story that is. But
was that Robin Hobb's assassin series? Maybe?
Could be.
Maybe. I think I'm on the same line with you. Fist.
Fist?
Yes.
Like this fist?
Yep.
Ooh, I guess a punch in the face, I suppose.
Patience.
Fruit of the Spirit. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control.
Gasoline.
Yeah. Billy Joel, We Didn't Start the Fire.
These are great answers.
I have no idea where that came from.
Voyage.
Probably Jules Verne.
Oh, cool. And hair.
Hair. I'm looking at your hair. 1970s musical, I suppose. Hairspray.
I think you win the award on these answers so far.
This is why I make up titles, because I can just put things together and think of, oh, that goes well.
All right, we're doing good. 31 minutes here. Do you have a favorite quote, and can you share it with us?
Other than your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries? What other quote is there? Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's good. Anything from Monty Python would be a favorite quote. In high school, we read Hamlet, and I remember this one line, "Cudgel thy brains no longer about it, for your dull ass cannot mend itself," or something like that. I'm going, "Cudgel thy brains no more about it." So that's a good quote.
I could have used that every day at school.
But on a more serious side, one of my favorite quotes from the Bible is Psalm 103, 14, where God says, "For he himself knows our frame. He is mindful that we are but dust." And so this idea that, God remembers that we are but dust is a great quote and a great comfort to me.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for covering a lot of bases.
From Monty Python to Scripture, I guess.
Exactly. Who is your favorite visual artist?
Favorite visual artist? Boy. I don't have, like in painting, I really don't have a favorite. I like certain styles, but I really couldn't tell you the difference between Monet and a Manet. But I do know that you need Monet to buy Degas to make the Van Gogh. Bum, bum.
Okay.
Come on. Come on. Do you have a laugh track, by the way?
You could have used that back at the funniest thing. No.
Visual artists. I just don't have a favorite, I don't think. My son-in-law, Jacob Ibarra, plug, is a great cartoonist artist, and has his website, Jacob Ibarra. And during Inktober, October, I guess a lot of artists use their sketches and they promote them on Instagram, call it Inktober. And they're just so fascinating. So, being in the family, I would have to say my son-in-law.
Hey, that is well awarded. We appreciate that. So, sometimes it is hard to identify, and there could be a whole smorgasbord that you all like equally. But
Yeah.
I just like to get an image of, because writing, at least for me, there's a lot of visual imagery, and some people can portray what I'm thinking of better than others. So I was curious if that's true across the board for authors.
Yeah, that's a good point.
All right, sort of serious.
Yeah.
What are you trying to share in your writing, if anything?
Yes. Okay. So this is a real good topic. I'm a Christian. I'm a believer, but I don't like reading tracts. If I'm reading fiction, I want to read fiction. I don't want to read a message, whether it's whatever the message. I don't want to read a message that's hidden behind fiction.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I want to read good fiction, and I think good fiction typically has a message, but it's not one that's forced onto the page. Walker Percy, for example, is a great fiction writer with a Christian mindset. Walter Wangerin, of course, our Southern Gothic. Now that I mentioned, I can't bring up her name. Famous Catholic writer, wrote a lot of Southern Gothic fiction. Anyway, this type of messaging, I want in my writing. I want to bring the truth. I want to portray the world in an accurate way, and that doesn't mean everything's a happy ending.
Right.
But I think there are certain eternal themes that I weave into my stories unconsciously, sometimes consciously. But whenever I get too teachy, too much of a lecture, I realize what I'm doing, and I go, "Ooh, that's just a tract. That's just information."
Right.
And I try to cut that out. I don't want my books to be. Some people use the word preachy. I'm a preacher, so I don't like that phrase. I use the word teachy because a lot of stories they're trying to cram a teachy message down your throat,
Right.
and they're not very good. So I try to avoid that. I know I might be accused of that if people read my like my fantasy, for example, Sword of Otrim. It has a pretty strong Christian underpinning. So I put it under Christian fiction on Amazon.
Okay.
Because I didn't want people to say, "Oh, here's a sword and sorcery story. Oh, what is he doing with all this, following the teachings of the master? What is all this about?" So I put it under Christian fiction specifically so that people wouldn't. But I don't think a Christian who picks it up will go, "Well, this isn't very Christian." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I'm in that weird in between place where I want a true worldview communicated, but I don't want it to be a lecture.
Understood. And like you said earlier, when you're giving depth to your characters, I mean, it's natural for us as a writer. There's a little piece of us in many, if not all, of our characters. It depends on how deep you go, but
Yeah,
you're building characters that can portray those universal truths and their behavior and their attitude, and you don't need so much to write it in a telling manner. You let that character show it.
exactly. Yeah. And I think Shakespeare. I don't know. I mean, he came from a Christian worldview. So he was immersed in a Christian milieu. So his tragedies are very Christian, even the pagan ones like Midsummer Night and Twelfth Night, and it's very there's just good underpinnings to that whole his whole oeuvre.
Huh. I don't know if I paid that much attention to catch that. Interesting. Okay. Now you're gonna make me relook at a couple.
There you go.
It's a good learning experience.
Yeah.
That, sir, wraps up our 24 questions in 42 minutes, and we did it in 39.
Hey, there you go. Am I supposed to do one more though?
Oh,
Cold current.
you get to close. Your closing is not part of the timing, so you get
There
free
you go.
time on the closing.
Oh, there you
So,
go.
I'm stopping the timer now and getting that out of here. We're still recording.
Sounds
now,
good.
now you get to say adios by telling us about 3 C's. Some work of yours that's cold, something that's current, and something that's coming.
All right. All right. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to use my science fiction novel as an example of all three.
Oh, okay.
Here's why. So this was a science fiction story that I started, I think, in 2007. And it was so much exposition. It was just world building. It's basically what you do now for your own benefit, and you don't share it with the reader.
Okay.
But I didn't know that almost 20 years ago. I didn't know how to write a story. I mean, I'd written some, but like I said, about 15 years ago, I started getting serious on figuring this thing out. And so this one just sat on my computer, and I thought it was a short story until recently a publisher posted that they're accepting some proposals for a science fiction novel and trilogy. And so I dusted it off just this last month, and I said, I'm gonna give myself a challenge. I'm gonna try to figure out if I can finish this short story. Well, I realized that it was not a short story, that it was a novel, and that all my world building had to be put aside and bring out character and action. So it was cold for sure, and now it's current because I'm fiddling with it. And if the publisher says yes, we want it, then it's going to be eventually coming.
Yes.
If he says no, it's not what we're looking for, no big deal. I will get to it eventually, like I do with most of my cold stuff on the computer. I go through it, I go, oh, I want to finish that story. And then it becomes current, and it eventually becomes something that's coming in the future, like my crime novel that I just finished.
Yep.
That one I started in 2012 and abandoned in 2014 because Joe Conrath changed directions with his series,
Right.
and they ended Kindle Worlds on Amazon. So I dusted that off just a few months ago, finished that, and now when I finish the other two, that will be coming in the new year.
On your own, you're going to release those?
I own three crime novels called Simply Criminal, Simply Murder, and Simply Dead. So look for those in
Cool.
2025.
What I'm hearing is it sounds like there might be hope for my abandoned Western from 2000.
Yes, you should. Just know that, some people will say just abandon, I'll start fresh. I mean, that's fine. That's probably the best advice. I take what I found and I start reworking it and massaging it, realizing some has to be abandoned, of course.
Right.
But if you have an idea that you like and you're still thinking about it, you've got a Western, you said, yeah, it's there. It's from 2000. Well, then I say go for it.
One would hopefully think I'm a little bit better by now, too.
Me too.
This was awesome, Lynn. Thank you very much for joining us. I'm looking forward to seeing how these crime novels turn out, that's for sure. And you'll have to keep us apprised of the science fiction one.
Will do.
Thank you for joining us and allowing us to get to the heart of your universe in 24 through 42.
Appreciate it.
My thanks to Lyndon for joining 24 and 42 today. We not only answered all 24 questions in less than 42 minutes, we were the first episode with a properly facing background. My thanks also goes to Lynn for being the first cause to neither beg nor yield. My so long and thanks for all the bloody blades salute to Sword and Sorcery. I'm looking forward to checking out that crime trilogy of his. You all be sure to read Lyndon's info below and give him a boost with some reviews. Until next time, this was 24 in 42.